Hey everybody, this is Craig Garver. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. Got a super amazing blues player here with us today with Chris Simmons, currently playing with the Paul Thorne Band. This guy doesn't play any wrong notes. And let me give you the cliff note. I just want to thank Bill Hines, our mutual friend, for hooking us up. Thanks very much, Bill.
Yeah.
Another great Alabama guitar player. Chris' background, originally from a small town in Northeast Alabama. He's an amazing self-taught blues and soul guitarist, great songwriter, singer, and amazing slide player as well. As I said, this guy only plays right notes. I mean, it's just a joy to listen to his music. And he's really in total control of his instrument, from tone to technique and everything. It's just like he's got his shit together. His professional career includes working with major label acts Mars Electric. He was with Leon Russell 5 years as his lead guitarist, and he's been with Paul Thorne as his guitar player for the last 5 years. I'm looking forward to getting to know Chris. He's got a ton of talent, and you seem like a very humble guy. You seem like a good student of life, and I always like people like that.
I like to think of myself as a student of life. I mean, when you make a bunch of mistakes, you're learning, you know.
Tuition is not cheap. I know, brother. All right. So you grew up in Boaz. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Boaz, Alabama. I was born there and grew up in a few small places around there. Just Albertville, Alabama. My parents divorced, and so I kind of moved, 10 miles away, that kind of thing, back and forth. But a lot of small towns, and it was just natural. It was normal, for me.
Because I looked up the population of Boaz, and in 2020, the population was 10,000. That's like the number of people that were in my apartment building. I'm not kidding you.
It didn't seem, it didn't seem like a really small town at the time. And actually, I moved way out in the country, right as I started first grade. And that was, it was really, if you think backwoods Alabama, it was kind of that.
What's that like, growing up
there? It was, to me, it was just normal. But looking back, there was flavors of what you might see on a redneck movie, kind of flavors of that. But it was just normal to me at the time, and I didn't really realize till I, left Alabama and went and saw a little bit more of the world. And that was kind of a shock,
I gotta ask you a question about that here, in a minute. But at 13, you got your first electric guitar, and you knew pretty shortly after that you wanted to play guitar for a living.
Mm-hmm.
What about the guitar, even at that young age, was so compelling to make you feel like that?
Well, I can't really put my finger on it completely, but I knew. Well, I had cousins and uncles that played country music when I was all my life, and I hardly saw them because they lived in California and Texas, but I would see them maybe once a year, and every time we would get together, Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, they would sit around and play, and it intrigued me. I wanted to do it too, but I had no idea how to do it. But when I was 11, I guess that's around when MTV, we got MTV. It came out a few years before that, but I saw, I guess it was Jump video.
Oh, Van Halen.
Yeah. And I was just watching that. I said, it looks like a lot of fun. And as I watched him play, I said, I believe I can do that. And I'd like to do that. I just kind of had the feeling, I think I can do it. So I started begging my mother to get me a guitar from then, and by 12 or so, she had gotten me a really, really crappy acoustic guitar at a yard sale. I think it came out of a catalog in the 50s or 60s, and this was the early to mid 80s, and it was awful. It sounded awful. It's hard to play. The action was high, and I had no idea it was supposed to be different. But, and I when she got it for me, I said, I want an electric guitar. So I put it up in the closet, and it sat there for months. And I went over to a buddy's house who had a guitar that I didn't see him very often, and he brought his guitar out and he showed me this. Heard it through the grapevine bass line on there, and I played. I was like, this plays a lot easier than my guitar. And I was he showed it to me, and I kind of got it pretty easy. I thought, so I went home immediately and picked that guitar up out of the closet, and I never let a day pass. I mean, for many, many years that I didn't pick up a guitar. I mean, it was just like that. And I guess maybe, I don't know, I guess maybe I thought that's what I'd always do from then. But once I joined my first band, I was almost 16 when I joined my first band. And I was competent I was competent among all the adults, people who had been doing it for years. And I thought, I think I can do this. And after going to my first concert, which was Joan Jett opening for Aerosmith.
Oh my God.
It was before Joan Jett's set was over. I had chills up and down my body, and I was like, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing this.
That's very cool, man.
Luckily, I'm able to do some of that, sometimes.
I think you do it a lot. Were your parents musical?
No, but they didn't play instruments, but they both sang around the house, My dad is a good singer, along to the radio type stuff, and my mother sang, and she would sing along sometimes at the family reunions. It's my mother's side of the family that is musical. Most of my cousins and uncles play, and a few of them play professionally.
So when you broke out your guitar years later at a reunion, were your cousins like, holy, what happened?
Yeah, it took a while, but they gave me my props,
Yeah, man.
It was nice. Nice to join in.
I've read in your bio, in your mid-teens, you said you played in a few cover bands as well as your own original band for a few years, but you said you were aimless and ignorant.
Yeah.
But you're still pretty young then, which goes kind of hand in hand with being aimless and ignorant. I was curious, What did you feel you weren't doing or learning that you should have been?
Well, I guess the me today is a little hard on me then,
Yeah.
All the hard work I did, I think I did it when it was fun and it was easy. And then when it would stop being fun or wasn't easy, I would slow way down, But it was a lot of fun, and it came easy, a lot of it. As far as, if I could go back, I would practice my technique with more intent.
Yeah.
Right? And I would, I met a guy when I was on the road with Leon, named Walter Barker. Guy's older than me and wasn't in the music business, didn't play an instrument, but he was a lyricist, and he got in touch with me after I left Leon and asked me if I would help him take his lyrics and turn it into a song, because he had never done it. And we had met and talked at the merch table, and he said he thought that I was a hustler, like I hustled, and he thought, this guy can get it done.
Right.
And so we agreed and did a song. And anyways, we did a few more songs, and we actually ended up doing a record. But over that time, that took 2 years to get that done. But over that time, I talked with him a lot, and he was a very successful businessman. I mean, he did flying on jets, doing stuff for big companies, and then he started his own smaller company, but very successful. And he kind of mentored me and showed me things that nobody had ever shown me. Like if you got plans, you don't just keep them in your head. You write them down. That way you can organize them better and think it through and maybe make an outline of how to get from point A to point B.
Sure.
And nobody had ever taught me that. And so when I was a teenager and, early 20s, it was all in my head, and I was just getting up every day. And when I was motivated, going towards something,
Right.
but not really with a lot of intent. But, just kind of playing it by ear, no pun intended, but,
Yeah.
it worked out, I learned along the way. And, but it was about, when I was about to turn 25, I got this scary feeling that I was halfway from 20 to 30, which now seems so stupid, but my 25th birthday was coming up, and I'm like, I'm playing locally and not making hardly any money. I don't know what I'm doing. It's not working the way I'm doing it. So I thought, I didn't write this down, but in my head, I found this one idea. I said, I'm just going to go out to the city. I didn't live in Birmingham, but I said, that's the closest city. I'm going to drive to Birmingham and just drive around until I see a place that looks like it has live music. I'm going to go in and see what happens. And that was a Tuesday morning. I woke up and it just kind of hit me. And I drove about an hour from where I was living. And I went to a place called it's the first place I went to. Went to a place called the Hippodrome, 5 Points in Birmingham, Alabama. It's not there anymore. And I saw a couple of guys in the window playing acoustic guitar. Didn't know them, never heard of them, didn't know anything. I just walked in, sat down at the bar by myself, got a beer, turned around, listened to them. They took a break. They saw me sitting there watching them. There wasn't a whole lot of people in there. So they came over. One of them came over and sat down, introduced himself. We started talking, had a few drinks. They played some more. I stayed all night, closed it down with them, enjoyed talking with them. Went back to their house, one of them's house, sat up drinking wine and swapping songs all night. Got up in the morning, hungover, was about to leave, and he comes out and says, "Hey man, I know some guys that are looking for a new guitar player, and I think you might fit in. Is it all right if I give them your number?" I said, "Yes, it is." I didn't even know who it was or what he was talking about. I said, "Yes, give it to him." And that was Mars Electric.
Oh, wow.
And those guys that I met were Jimmy and Eric from a band called Suburban Love Junkies. It's been around Birmingham for decades now. They're a great band and great guys. And but yeah, that one morning I woke up and said, I'm going to do this. Went and did that. That happened. Auditioned with Mars Electric, and then got that, and that lasted, a year or so. But that was an amazing learning experience and just an amazing experience and a step in the right direction, I thought, and it really was.
So how did you feel about yourself? Like, you had this thing in your head, you went out and executed, and you got a result first time, which is not how life usually works, as you know.
Right. That's right.
How did you feel it? Like driving home? Just that they said, hey, they're going to hook you up with somebody. Attention musicians, composers, artists, and songwriters. If you have a burning desire to get involved with the current explosion of opportunities in music licensing and take your income to the next level, then you must listen to this. A new free training video has just been released, which shows you how to make your first placement in music licensing, or if you've already made some placements, but you don't have a specific system to make more placements more consistently, you'll learn how to do this as well. This free video training is called Where the Money's Hiding in the Music Business, and you can find it online at musicreboot.com. musicreboot.com. This video shows you how to create the financial stability you've always wanted and how to take advantage of the current explosion of opportunities in music licensing due to streaming and the internet. So check it out online now at musicreboot.com.
I was, that feeling you get when you're with the satisfaction, the self-satisfaction, you're like, I tried something, I thought it might work, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
And then you get that feeling of, look out now, don't get too confident, don't get too happy about this, because, I don't know, at the time I didn't know so much, but now I'm aware that there's so much in this world that you don't control it all. It's chaotic.
Yeah, like everything.
Yeah, that's right. Almost everything. Maybe yourself you can kind of control. Maybe.
Sure. I always say I'm not part of the results committee. I leave that to, the universe, God, whoever, whatever you want to call it. All I could do is the footwork and, hope for the best.
Yeah, do your best and hope for the best.
Yeah, that's it. When that happened, how do you look at things like that? Do you look at things like that, like, serendipity or an act of God or like a combination? How do you frame stuff like that in life in general?
Well, if I had to, I'd say act of God or serendipity. But it just seems, you are where you are because of the decisions you make. And it just seemed, you can just kind of tell if you're veering away from the path that seems natural. And for me, luckily when I was 15, I knew for certain what I really, really should be doing. And so that was easy. My son is 15, same age I was when I knew what I was going to do for the rest of my life. He doesn't know. Most kids don't know.
Yeah.
And I have no way of helping him really with that, because I say, hey, maybe it'll pop into your head like it did me. But and maybe it will, but I'm not worried about him. But it's very, when I stop and think about it, which I have most of my life, it's very matrixy.
Yeah,
like everything's set up for me. I've had some bad luck, but I've had a lot of good luck.
Yeah. It's amazing how things come about. I agree with you there, man. It's I've tried to be pretty observant, and I've noticed that throughout my life, most people that succeed have done so doing the things that they want to do. It's been very organic, and that is a gift and a sort of a blessing that you got at that young of an age to know what you wanted to do. Because you're right, it's not common at all. I certainly didn't know. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. So you got the gig with Mars Electric. They were signed to a major label, and you guys opened for Stone Temple Pilots, Motley Crue, Live, Three Doors Down, Nickelback, Alice Cooper, and others, which is obviously really good. But after a year or so, the record didn't sell well, and you got dropped from the label. So at that point, you moved out to Austin for 5 years, and you started a new band. And I have a few questions about that. What made you pick Austin, and was it hard to get things going there?
Well, I picked Austin because I was for a short time, I was in an Atlanta band called Cadillac Voodoo Choir, which I had met in Jacksonville, Alabama. They came and played at Brothers Bar, and my band opened, and we met up, and they ended up needing a guitar player, and I went out there and in Atlanta and did that. But they toured East Texas while I was with them, and we toured East Texas and Colorado, and it was just like a new world. at the time, it was like coming out of black and white into the Wizard of Oz, because everywhere we went, they had a great PA system. They had great monitors. They had a great crew. They treated us like we were somebody when we got there. And the audiences filled the places and loved all the original music they were hearing. And I just couldn't believe it. I'd never experienced that in my experience in Alabama. And I thought, this is the promised land. I feel like I should move here one day. This is like where I need to be. And that was when I was maybe 22 or so when I toured there, something like that, 22, 23. And, after the Mars Electric thing, that just seemed like the obvious move.
To go to Austin.
But here again, we have, it wasn't hard when I got out there. I'll tell you why. My wife, now wife, my girlfriend at the time, decided after she graduated college, she wasn't too sure that she wanted a guitar player with a dream as her long-term plan. So we took a break, and shortly after that, that's when I got the Mars Electric gig. And she decided after she graduated, she would do travel nursing. And she had heard me sing the praises of how fun it was to be in Austin. So she went to Austin without me. And the guys from Cadillac Voodoo Choir had already moved to Austin a year or two before. So they were established, and I knew those guys, and there was no bad blood. I left the band, but it just wasn't a good match for me at the time. But so I knew those guys, and my wife had established herself out there, girlfriend at the time. But we got back together shortly after the Mars Electric, or maybe, right around the time the Mars Electric thing was dissolving for me. We got back together. She was on a travel assignment in Atlanta, and when it was up, I said, let's move back to Austin. And she said, let's do it.
Oh, that's cool, man.
I got out there, already had, within a couple of days, I'd already set up a jam with several musicians at the rehearsal space. Let's get this ball rolling.
Yeah.
And put a band together immediately, started writing songs, and they already knew all the places to book, all the people to book, because I don't know anything about that. I've never been good at that. But it just you wouldn't believe how everything lined up. This bad thing happened, and then these other good things came from it,
Yeah.
When my wife, we took a break, that was bad. I didn't like that.
Sure. Of course.
But the reason she went to Austin and established herself out there and got familiar with it, and it wasn't like a big risk for her to go back. She knew about it, So it was easier for her to agree to come with me, and it was easier for me because she was a travel nurse assignment. They pay for your housing, so we didn't have to worry about that.
Oh, wow.
I mean, crazy too.
God, you guys stepped in it good, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've been very lucky. It's like I say, it seems crazy sometimes.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. And back then, Austin was booming musically.
Yeah. And they used to say, "Oh, you should have seen it 20 years ago."
Oh, wow.
And that's what I say now. You should have seen it.
Hell yeah.
It was crazy. I mean, it was a small town, small city feeling, small town feeling in a city.
Yeah.
Community. Lots and lots of great musicians, lots and lots of places to see music, play music, restaurants. Just nature. I mean, it's still a great place, but it's too many tall buildings now.
Oh, there's a lot of tech people. Like what's his name? Elon Musk is there now. A lot of stuff like that. Yeah, I know.
It's progress.
Progress. After Austin, you moved out to LA. What made you move there? And then I got to ask you, what kind of culture shock did you have moving to LA after living in like much more rural places most of your life?
Yeah, it was a kind of a shock. Um, we had gotten married, my wife and I, by that time. While we were in Texas, we got married. Came back to Alabama, got married, and then, but we. So I guess we were thinking about coming back to Alabama. I know I was, and I guess she was too. If we're going to start a family, which we were thinking about, we wanted to do it near our families,
Right.
if we could, and we really wanted to. But I thought, instead of heading right back to Alabama, I came up with this idea of let's go all the way to the mecca of the entertainment business, as far as we know, right? So let's just go out there, commit to a year. You can do a travel nurse assignment. We don't have to worry about paying rent. And she was on board, so we did it.
Right.
And it was a shock, and a lot of it is great. You don't know what famous person you might see walking down the street, and that's a thrill.
Sure.
And you go out, you dress up, you go out, everybody's dressed up and looking at each other, thinking, how cool are we? And everybody's like, yeah, we're really cool. And that's a good feeling at first, but that doesn't sustain you, obviously.
Sure, man.
So, but
everybody's thinking how cool they are like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's really the deal. I mean, that's as far as I could see, but I had the plan of going out there. And so I started looking on whatever it was at the time, probably Craigslist, for bands that needed somebody.
Hmm.
And I set up 2 or 3 meetings with some folks, and I actually flew out there before I moved. After I knew I was going to move, I flew out there for the Queen with Paul Rogers concert.
Okay.
Because I thought they were only going to play in L.A. and New York. They said 2 concerts only, and I said, well, I got to go to one of them. So we spent the money and we went, and ended up catching the Black Crowes too the night before.
Oh, cool.
They happened to be at the Henry Fonda Theater. But anyways, I went out there and met up with some folks, and just kind of seeing what the deal was out there, and seeing if there was something that seemed right for me. Anyways, just like when I moved to Austin, I'd already had it set up. So within a couple of days, I was in a rehearsal space with a group of guys that ended up being the band that I was in for almost a year.
Okay.
And they were already immersed into the business there, as far as the strip and places to play, and people who knew people. And one of the guys was actually a writer for David Spade's show, so he had some connections and contacts, and I didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that when I first jammed with them, but it just all fell into place, and we had a good band and wrote some great songs and had some fun. But after about 6 months, my wife had had enough of it, and so had I, as far as just driving, going to the grocery store, anything, except for actually playing music was horrific, when you compare it to the life we knew what we could have in Alabama.
Sure.
So I said, you know what, I committed to a year. I told these guys, I'm going to commit to a year and reassess, and don't be surprised if it isn't going great. I'll say so long. But I said, if it's on an upward trajectory, then I'll reassess and maybe stay longer. But I told my wife after 6 months, I'm not going to torture you with this. You don't have to be here. So I told her to go back and get a 6-month lease on an apartment in Alabama, get a job wherever she's a nurse, so she could get a job anywhere. So choose what city you want to live in or near or whatever. Let me know. And I stayed out there and lived in the rehearsal space for the last 6 months. And it didn't get bad, but it didn't really get any better. as far as
Sure.
I was concerned. I mean, if I'd have stayed out there and did something with that band and really committed to it, it was a great band. I think we could have done something, but at the time in my life, it seemed like the right thing to do just to get back to Alabama.
Sure. I can't imagine you missing your wife. That must have been rough, man.
It was tough. Yeah. I think I flew home once.
Oh, wow.
Maybe twice over that 6 months.
Yeah, that's rough, man. I give you credit for that. What was the biggest culture shock, LA, to what you're used to?
Biggest culture shock in LA. It was just when it dawned on me, and I don't judge people. I was there doing the same thing. When it dawned on me that most people are there, they're looking for people that they think can help them. And once they find out you can't help them, or they don't think that you can, that's it.
And move on.
That's right. And like I say, I don't blame people. They have a plan, and that's part of the plan, is to not waste time on people who can't do anything for you.
Yeah.
Everybody's out there. It's it's transactional, right. And that's fine. It really wasn't my cup of tea.
Sure.
But it was a learning experience,
Yeah. Yeah, I get 100% what you're saying. Yeah, that's got to be difficult, man. You feel like a thing instead of a human.
Yeah, and I was there to get help, so I felt like there wasn't. The only thing I can do is play and sing and write songs. So if you need that, I can help you. Other than that, I don't know anybody. I don't know how to. I don't even know how this business works.
Right. No, I hear you, man. So you move back to Alabama, and you get a phone call that changes your life. You get an opportunity to audition for Leon Russell, who you spent 5 years on the road with. Did you take over from Bob Britt?
No, the guy that was in there before me is also from Alabama. He, a good friend of mine named Jason Spiegel. And Leon gave him the nickname Jay Curly, so everybody calls him Jay Curly Spiegel now. But he passed away a little over a year ago now.
Oh, sorry,
I think. But and he was one of my close friends for a long time, and close guitar buddy, you know what I mean? We played in a cover band together. We did a lot of Allman Brothers. We would stay up late and listen to Allman Brothers and play cards and talk about who's playing what lick, and what are you going to play that lick tomorrow night? Or which part are we going to play? String gauges, pick sizes, amps, tubes. Just really just pouring over guitar stuff. He was
sure.
I have a lot of great memories with him.
And he I'm sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
I was just going to say that Jason Spiegel was the guy who left Leon's band, and that was who I followed. Actually, no, I forgot. Scott Boyer Jr. actually took the gig first, because I originally got a call while I was still in LA.
Man, can you hear me? All of this, it's like clockwork. I do an interview and the lawn guys show up.
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah. I don't. Okay. It's not bad. But I had actually gotten a call from my buddy Zach, he was in my band in Austin. He's from Alabama. He moved to Austin to join my band after a couple of years I was out there. And he got a job with a booking agency in Austin, and Leon was one of their artists. So he became Leon's day-to-day guy. So I knew a guy, right?
Yeah.
But while I was in Austin, that's when Jason got the gig, Jason Spiegel. And that was great. We got to go see him and Leon when they would come through. And but I was like halfway through my year in LA, when Zach called and said, Leon, he's a guitar player, and he asked me if I knew anybody. I said, I know a guy. So I said, man, that is an opportunity of a lifetime. I would love to, but I committed to these guys out here, and if I up and leave them, I don't think I feel good about it.
Yeah, that was really cool of you, actually.
Well, I tried to recant about like 2 weeks later. So, I mean, I was trying to do the right thing, and I ended up having to do the right thing because Scott Boyer Jr. actually got the gig, but he didn't stick around too long.
His dad was in Cowboy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with Tommy Talton. Yeah, I had Tommy on here a long time ago. Yeah.
I met both the Scott Boyer senior and junior years ago. Around they played some place together in Gadsden, Alabama, and then I went to one of the big music parties and multiple shows where everybody was there. When I was younger, it was crazy. I was so nervous, but yeah, Scott Boyer Jr., he did a good job. He just didn't stick with the gig too long.
Sure.
And that was lucky for me. I was back in Alabama, and I was just playing in a local blues band, getting by.
Right.
And I said, before he could get the sentence out of his mouth, I was like, yes, I will take the audition. I would try. I just couldn't say yes quick enough. But look at that. Two once in a lifetime, same opportunity the second time, because I didn't get it the first time.
That's pretty crazy.
I got a long list of things like that.
Yeah. So you co-wrote 2 songs with Leon. You traveled the world. You met and opened for a lot of other people like the Doobie Brothers, Little Feat, the Allman Brothers, Edgar Winter, Bob Dylan, and Elton John. What did you get most out of that entire experience, both professionally and personally?
Personally, once it sunk in, I started to feel like, hey, I'm doing something here. I'm hanging in.
Yeah.
Like it's not always clear to you when you're chasing something or working towards something that you can actually do it. But it kind of dawned on me, hey, I'm doing it. It. And after 3 months go by, you're like, all right, I haven't been fired for not being good enough. So personally, that was part of it.
It's a lot, like you got your confidence solidified. Yeah, that's great.
I was working steady, making a steady wage, which is, that's what you're shooting for when you're a husband.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
And so that felt really good personally, and I felt like, hey, I got a handle on this right now, and
professionally,
I learned how someone who's been doing it for nearly 50 years at the time, Leon Russell, how he does it. He's got things that he's learned, like what to do and what not to do to get out on time, to get to the gig on time, to do a good job at the gig, and then do it again, and do it with efficiency, and do it on time and professionally. Learn how to be a professional, be ready, be on time, and a lot of talk about songwriting. He didn't talk all the time, but when he did, it was there was something to it. He wasn't just BSing and small talking. And sometimes he would really want to talk about songwriting and tell stories about how he learned from Bob Dylan about songwriting, and it really it helps to hear the philosophy and try to institute some of that when you're writing songs. It makes it a lot easier. Instead of thinking about it too much, you just do it, you know?
Yeah. Well, he was such a great songwriter, man.
Yeah, that's right.
I would love you to share that story about Elton John coming over to talk with you early on in the tour where Elton was co-headlining with Leon.
Yeah, so we were scheduled to do, I think, 12 shows, something like that, over a couple of weeks. And we were told, you're going to come out with Leon. Y'all are going to play like 25 minutes of Leon songs. And then you guys, the band's going to leave the stage. Leon's going to stay seated. Elton and his band are going to come out, and they're going to play the whole new record and some of Elton's songs. And that's that. And we were like, well, this is great. We're so excited just to be a part of this. Well, the second night of that tour, Elton comes to our dressing room while we're, getting prepared to go do our set, and just, gives kind of pep talks. Great to be on tour with you guys. This is so much fun. We're going to have a great show. Just wanted to say hey before the show tonight. And I was like, wow, this is so great. Elton John, you can't really even get your head around it.
Yeah.
And then before he turns around to leave, he walks over to me and he says, are you going to come up and play Monkey Suit with us tonight? I guess he could see the look on my face, because he said, you know how to play it, right? And I said, mm-hmm. So I didn't know how to play it. So I didn't know I was going to play it. I didn't know I was going to play it. I'd heard it because it was on the new record, and I'd listened to it several times. And we had hoped that we were going to play on some of that stuff, but we were told we weren't, that it was going to be Elton's band. So went out and did the 25 minutes with Leon. And then I ran back to the dressing room, put on the CD, got my guitar, and went over that song, 20 times or more.
Dude, you must have been sweating doing that.
Yeah.
That's pressure. Yeah.
Yeah. I was sweating. And then I learned it, got out there, stood beside Davy Johnstone, and to my right was Elton, to my left was Leon, and the whole band,
That's pretty freaking cool.
And out in front of us, 6,000 to 10,000 people, I can't remember, but at least 6,000, and my body was just. But I made it through it, and I ended up playing that song that night, and then the next 10 shows or 9 shows or whatever it was, came out and played 2 songs every night.
Oh, that's so cool, man.
That's one of those things that I don't think I'll ever forget, really.
You have pictures of that? Did someone get some pictures of you on stage with the whole band?
There is some video, and there is some pictures.
Cool.
It was on my website, which I guess got hacked, but I'd probably be able to recover it if I call the people who know what they're doing, get them to fix it.
That's really cool. What a good experience, man.
Yeah,
that's good. Thank you for sharing that, man. If you're comfortable, what prompted you to leave Leon's band?
Well, I didn't prompt myself. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
But I've talked about this a lot because I was just let go. I wasn't given a reason. Nobody in the band, I asked, I wasn't able to ask Leon at the time or ever. I never asked him, but I asked the guys in the band and said, what? Do y'all know what's going on? They were all just as shocked as I was. It's just after a show, said, your services are no longer required. I was shocked. No, there was no
God,
but
that's awful.
right.
And it obviously wasn't your playing, because it doesn't take the guy, Leon Russell, 5 years to figure it out. So like, what the,
Yeah. So see, I knew Leon liked me. Like you said, I was with him for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I was on time. I was prepared. I always tried to do better every night. But that wasn't it. I'm not sure what it was still, but it was about 2 years later. I went to a show, and after the show, I knew Leon would be on the bus by himself. So I knew the code, so I opened the door and poked my head in. You go up those stairs, you poke your head, there's a curtain. Pull the curtain back, and he saw my face. I said, "Hey, Leon, do you mind if I sit down and talk with you for a minute?" And he said something like, "Come on in." Like he didn't really know what was coming. He didn't really want to, but he said, "Come on in." And that would have been my opportunity to say, "Why? Why did you fire me?" But I had, given it a lot of thought over the, you're going to think about it. Why, go over it and try to figure it out.
Sure.
I'd given it a lot of thought, and I'd come to the conclusion that it was, he's the one that gave me the job. He's the one that took it away. I was really glad that I had it for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot out of it.
Sure.
And I don't understand legends. Only legends know how legends are going to act. And I just said, hey, if Leon didn't want me in the band anymore, that's good enough for me. That's the way I saw it. And when I talked to him, all I did was express thanks. I really wanted to do that. And I said, I wanted to say thank you. And he gave me a guitar. And that's when I knew for sure that he liked me. And it was within the first year I was with him. He had this guitar that he had bought from Freddie King.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see it.
Dude, I wanted you to talk about that, because Freddie King is my all-time favorite blues player. And like, he did things with that hit, the power the guy had. It was just, and Leon was involved with him in all them Shelter records, which were his amazing records, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk about that guitar.
Well, he came up to me. He had told me the story. I don't know. Shortly after I joined the band, he had told me the story of how he went and bought that guitar from Freddie. He said Freddie was at the Highland Hotel and called him and said, "I got a couple guitars I want to sell. Do you want to come look?" So he said, "Yeah, I'll be over." Came to the door. Said Freddie was in his boxers, and there was a couple of naked ladies on the bed. He didn't invite him in. He just opened the door, and he said, "Here's the guitars." And Leon kind of peeked in, and so those ladies were just sitting there staring at Freddie, waiting on him to come back. That's the story. And he said he grabbed one of them, he played it. He grabbed the other one, played it. He goes, "I'll take this one." He said $350. I think is what he said, $350. And he left.
Is that one of his 345s?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit!
68 345.
Dude, can you? I'd love to see that, man. I'd love to touch that.
Yeah, I actually,
Chris, that's so cool.
I actually took it on the blues cruise because I knew there would be a lot of people that would be pleased to see it.
Oh my God.
68 345.
What is that guitar like? Like, describe the neck on there. Is it like a big?
It's big. It's big. It's got a narrow nut.
Okay.
Narrower than a normal Gibson nut, but it's got a fatter back.
Neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Freddie was massive. He just seemed like a huge dude.
Yeah. No. Texas Cannonball.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, I mean, there's
Wow.
a lot of mojo. A lot of mojo in this one.
Dude, how many
Yeah.
people do you meet that are guitar players that don't ask you to see the guitar? Probably not many.
Yeah, I mean, I usually volunteer it when I feel like somebody will appreciate it.
Yeah.
And because, like I said, it was a gift.
$350. How nuts is that?
Yeah, it is. It's not worth that now.
Hell no. Oh
But
my God.
yeah, I feel like it was a gift to me. I appreciate it. And so when I can let somebody who will appreciate it too, I let them play it, touch it, play it. Because I guess I feel like that's kind of my job if I'm going to have it. But it means a lot to me just because it to me it was a symbol that I once again belong there, and that Leon thought so.
Yeah, for sure. I've had 930 guests on the show roughly, and I've heard so many stories of why artists just do randomly let go of people from their girlfriend or their wife said you need to change your guitar player to I need somebody younger, I need somebody older, I need somebody with a different look to it's just flavor of the month, I need a new one.
Yeah.
It's like completely random and doesn't make any sense. It's never related to the competency of the player.
Yeah, sometimes. And I'm sure I may have been on the good end of that deal before, where I was the next guy.
Yes.
So that's just the way it goes. It hurts. Nothing, rejection or, surprises, unpleasant surprises never feel
Yeah,
good.
Who the hell? No.
But it's part of the deal,
Yeah. Well, I give you a lot of credit for having for having reconciled that in your head prior to and framing it in a way that, hey, I got the benefit of it. He hired me. He had the right, no bad blood. Let me just go thank him. That was like, it speaks like loads of your character,
Well, I appreciate you saying that. But when you see that guitar, when you see that he wrote 2 songs with me that I put on my records, and that all that did was make the record sell easier, which he let me sell after the shows at his shows.
Yeah,
I did his merch too.
Yeah.
So I would sell his shirts and his CDs, but he said, if you want to put your CDs out there too, you just have to charge the same price as mine. But I made a lot of money
That's
doing
awesome.
that. And right after I got the gig with him, my wife got pregnant. So I needed that money.
You needed the bread, man. Sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. That's good that you were able to look at the glass half full instead of half empty, because
it's almost, it's overflowing. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really cool. And when you come down here, I'm just letting you know I need to see that guitar.
If I have it with me, I don't travel with it all the time.
Oh, you don't? I saw you playing on stage quite a bit. Maybe it was local gigs.
Some local stuff. I'll bring it, like if Muscle Shoals or something. If I come home, maybe I'll bring it there and play it. And I don't mind taking it if I'm going to play it more than one song. I certainly don't want to fly with it. I've never.
Oh, hell no! God no! Not something like that. That's forgetting about the money, what it's worth. Just like the privilege.
Yeah.
To play that thing, man. That's like,
it's true.
Yeah, man. This, like you said, the mojo. That's so funny. Freddie comes out there with 2 naked women in the background. So he lived a short life, but it seems like a pretty good life.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. So then 2019, Bill Hines leaves Paul Thorne's band, and you get the call audition for that slot, and you've been with Paul ever since. What's been the most important things you've learned on this gig?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind was I've learned how to play guitar better.
Okay, in what way?
Well, I had to learn a lot of new techniques that Bill Hines did that I kind of knew what he was doing, but I wasn't practiced in it. And I learned about myself there again about how much more I could do that I wasn't doing on my own.
That's cool.
But when I first saw Bill, I was motivated to run home and practice. When I first saw Paul Thorne Band it was a festival near here in Jasper, Alabama. My band was there, and they were there, and we met up backstage and talked and kind of hit it off. And they thought my band was cool. I thought their band was really cool. And like I said, I saw Bill playing, and I said, I've got to go home and practice.
There are guys that make you feel that way when you see them, or you feel like I shouldn't even be playing this guitar.
Yeah.
Combination.
Yeah, it's one. Yeah, it's that scary feeling. It's like, what am I doing? So, and I was watching the band too, and thinking, man, this band is great. These songs are great. And then I just started thinking to myself, could I play in this band? And my answer immediately was, not today. But I said, I think if I practiced, maybe I could. That's what I said in my head, no lie. I promise you, that's what I said in my head that day. And did go home and practice, but not enough, because when I got the call for the audition, it was tough. I said yes because it felt like the proper thing to do. I was scared, and I didn't want to have to work as hard as I knew I was going to have to. But that's another thing it taught me, is that I can do more than I think I can sometimes.
Yeah.
If I'm willing to put everything else aside, because that's what I did. For 2 weeks, I learned 6 songs for the audition, and I put everything else that I could aside. And got the gig, and then I had like 35 more songs to learn over 6 weeks, something like that. I had to put everything else aside for that too, and just warm up. Get up in the morning, have some breakfast, warm up, do it regiment. On for an hour, take 20 minutes or whatever, so my hand wouldn't wear out and my brain wouldn't wear out. But I got it done, and I learned that I could do it. I wasn't sure I could. Thought I could.
You remember that movie Superbad?
Yes.
It was like, it had McLovin, the kids.
Oh yeah, I remember
okay.
Of it, yeah.
I don't know if you remember the soundtrack. It was like really cool funk. It was like it actually was Bootsy. I mean, it was Bootsy Collins, I believe, who played that in his band. And the guy who scored that is a guy in LA named Lyle Workman. And he's a fantastic guitar player on top of that, but he's also a really good arranger. He came on the show, and he came out with an album a couple of years back, and it was just a brilliant record. He's like a virtuoso guitar player, and the arrangements that he did were pretty phenomenal. And at the end of the interview, I asked him, I said, Lyle, what did you learn from doing this? Because it's a pretty phenomenal piece of work. And he said exactly what you said. He said, I've learned you can do more than you think you can do. And that was really cool to hear you say that, because that means you like really pushed yourself and like grew out of it, which is, I always like to hear those stories. It makes me feel good and optimistic.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hear those stories too, and they're inspiring. And I'm sure I heard somebody when I was younger or something, and it stuck with me. It's I was I was taught that if I wanted to learn how to do something, that I probably could if I wasn't afraid to try.
Right.
But that's the stumbling block.
Yeah, most people don't make it past the starting gate because of that, unfortunately. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. That's awesome, man. What a great story. I want to talk about some of your solo music, and I just want to tell people, when I listen to Chris's music, because I had not heard his solo stuff, this guy is just a really, really soulful blues player. And as I said to him before we started the call, he's more like got like a gospel soul and puts it in blues. I mean, he's a phenomenal blues player, but he hits these notes. It's just really nice. So I would encourage everybody to check out Chris's music. He's got 4 records out. Let's start with I want to talk about some of my favorite tracks on your album Old News to Me. You got a really cool track called Get on Board Little Children. And that song, I think, was written by Paul Robeson, the great tenor singer, right?
Well, I at the time I didn't know who wrote it. I was just, that was my first record that I did myself after I got my first studio built. And I had like, I don't know, I forget how many songs, 10 are on there, but I had 7 or 8 songs, something like that. And I thought, well, I need some more songs. Maybe I'll just get a public domain, some public domain lyrics, and do my own version of some old gospel blues type thing. So I just, got on the internet, started searching, and I don't know if it was the first one I came to, but it didn't take long till I got to those lyrics, and what came out of it, it was just what came out, and it
Dude,
seemed right.
Phenomenal! What an arrangement of that. I mean, that
Thank you.
So. And you played. Did you? I think I read you played all the instruments on that record.
Yeah, on the first one I played all of it, and on the second one I played all of it. But I got Matt Slocum to play organ and piano on 2 tracks on the second one, on Hallelujah Man. But but that's the reason I built my own studio, is so that I could get. There's things about going to the studio that I hated over the years, which was time limits.
Yeah.
Engineers who thought they were producers or part of the band, part of the decision-making process. And I thought, I'm going to build my own studio and learn how to work it, learn how to put it all together. I'm going to learn how to play drums. I'm going to learn everything, because I want to sit in there all day and go over and over again on a vocal take or a drum track or a guitar solo until I think it's right. And if it ain't right at the end of that day, I'll go the next day and start again.
Right.
Because once it's done,
But so you played keys on that track on Get on Board Little Children?
Yes. And that was it was a Wurlitzer 200A that I got when I was in Texas. I got a good deal on it, and I kept it till several years after I made that record, until the samples started sounding so good that I couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah.
But that's the real 200A. I put a mic on the speaker of the 200A and did it. The drum beat that you hear on there, that droning drum beat, that's just me with my hands on top of the 200A. And I stacked that up till it sounded like I wanted it to.
Well, that keyboard sounded fantastic. To me, it was like super old school, gospel sounding. I mean, that's such a cool track, man.
It was the real deal. And
it
it all with all its imperfections, and That was the real deal. There was no fake on that track as far as that piano.
Yeah, that was awesome. And then you got a track on there called Lying Again. It's another great blues track. It sounds like you're playing a Strat and a Gibson in that track. Are you playing both?
I don't remember for sure. I was probably at some point playing a Les Paul. I played that one, a Blue Sparkle Les Paul Deluxe, with full size
the humbuckers.
It had full size humbuckers in it.
Full size.
It was routed before I got it, but I don't remember if I played a Strat on that or not. If it sounds like it, I probably did. I probably had one at the time, and I just don't remember. I should have wrote it down, and maybe I wrote it down somewhere, but I don't know where I wrote it down.
No, it sounded really cool because the two guitars were different enough that you could hear the sound out of it. That's why I don't like. I mean, nothing. I don't want to start slamming guitars, but other brands outside of Gibson and Fender, they don't really have. To my, you can't listen to like a certain brand of guitars outside of maybe a Gretsch you can, but and you know what I mean. It doesn't have that sound, and that's why I like.
It's pleasing,
Yeah.
And if you deviate too much from what is really great or almost perfect, then you're just getting farther away from that. Maybe.
Yes. That's how I feel. And I listen, obviously there's a big world, and my opinions just my opinions. I mean nothing. There's thousands of guitars sold from all brands, but that's why I stick with Fender. And to me, I like to hear, oh, that's a Strat, that's a or that's a Strat or a Tele, or that's a Gibson, that's a hollow body, semi, whatever. And it feels good. That track, Lying Again, it is hard to listen to that song without picking up your guitar and playing along with it. It's so cool. I was just curious, is that about anything? And every time I listen to it, I grab one of these and I'm just like, imagining I could play like you. But but it's just the vibe is so good. You can't leave a guitar sitting there next to you without picking it up.
Well, I appreciate it. That's good to hear.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
That's good to hear.
Was that song about anything in particular?
I don't think so. If I remember correctly, it's just a song about a guy who's trying to tell a girl that, hey, this is very casual. If I tell you I love you, I'm lying. Don't worry about it. And that was just me. I wrote that song in my early 20s, and I was trying to be as cool as some of the people I thought were cool when they wrote their songs and sang their songs.
Sure. Well, it's a great blues track, man.
Thank you.
On Hallelujah, Man. Tell me about the title. I don't usually ask about titles, but that was a pretty cool title. What was that about?
Well, Hallelujah, Man is a song that I ended up co-writing with Leon. I had the idea of the lick and the idea of the story in my head, which really didn't translate all the way to the song, but the story in my head was of a traveling Bible salesman who everybody, when he came around, he did a lot of the same routes, and people would say, hey, Hallelujah Man. They called him Hallelujah Man in this imagination of mine. He had a station wagon, an old station wagon, boxes of Bibles in the back. Had one of those ashtrays that sits on the dash, with the bag.
Yeah, those old, man, you're taking me way back. I haven't even thought of that in maybe I walked through a market or a yard sale 25 years ago. The last time I thought of that.
It must, it must be some memory I had when I was a little, a kid or whatever, but it just popped into my head, that idea. And in the words, Hallelujah Man, but I was just playing it one day and I thought, I'm going to sit down and play this for Leon and see what he thinks. And he started singing out lyrics while I was playing the riff. And I said, hold on. I put my phone on record. I started playing again and he kept singing. And he sang a bunch of lyrics and I went into the back of the bus. I wrote them all down, arranged them. And I went back and told him, I said, we just wrote a song. I kind
Oh,
of
that's so
tricked him
cool.
into it. Well, I didn't know it was going to happen either, but yeah, it was organic like that. And his lyrics didn't have anything to do with necessarily what I was thinking, but I put it all together, and it tells whatever story it tells. It tells that
Sure.
story.
You got a track on the Hallelujah Man album called Farewell for Now, and it is such a great song. It's like a uplifting, bluesy, gospel-y rock track. And I was curious what the backstory was, and specifically where you say there's something out there waiting for me. What does that refer to?
When I wrote it, it was and I guess still, I mean, it's what I'm shooting for the stars. There's something, I'm not even sure what it is. I'm just going for it. I'm on the journey. And and I started writing that song when in my early 20s too, but I didn't finish it for about 10 years because it was a song about being out on the road and being away from home. And I kind of imagined it, but I didn't really know at that time. I knew a little, but weekend stuff. But after about 10 years of living, I had experienced being gone and being away and wishing that I could, having regrets, wishing that I could go and go home and do something different to change something or whatever,
Sure.
Just being lonesome, being out on the road, but also chasing that something,
Yeah.
So yeah, I finished that song when shortly before I left Texas. So it was many years later.
I love that track. And I'm with you. I'm something out there waiting for me. I'm trying to figure out. I'm just on the journey. I love the double stops in that solo that you do, because I'm really trying to learn those. And I know they're not as hard as I think, and I get in my head sometimes, but I love double stops that are done well, which they're done beautifully in that track. And I really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
I was curious. You put the title song from Old News to Me on Hallelujah Man album. What made you do that?
As I recall, when I was doing the Old News to Me record, I thought Old News to Me would be a good title for a song, but I hadn't written the song and I didn't get around to it. But between that record and the next record, I had written a song called Old News to Me. And I thought it would be funny.
It was funny.
Put that song on the next record, and then but I messed around. I put the title and the title track on the Hallelujah Man, so I couldn't do it on the next one.
Right. It was funny. You see that, like I've seen that maybe like, I don't know, 2 or 3 times in my life, and it's always cool. I always wonder what the story is behind that.
Well, the idea of the song and the album title were just kind of all there, but no song,
Yeah. On Set Me On Free, you got a track called Demons Won't Let Go. I love that track. Super cool blues rock. The mix on this record is different. I felt like your voice is more out front in vocals. Was that deliberate?
Yes. That whole record I co-wrote with Walter Barker.
With the guy who had the lyrics, and you put the song. Yeah. Okay.
And we did it one at a time, and we didn't have a plan to do the whole record. But for the first time in a long time, I was working with someone else and making decisions with them instead of just making all the decisions.
Okay.
And so I would, we batted the songs back and forth and got the song, and I demo it, and then he would say, "What about this?" And we go back and forth until we got what we got. And I wanted it to be different. I didn't want it to be just the way I wanted it. I wanted it to be the way he wanted it to, but I also wanted it to be more for everyone, which I think people like the vocals a little higher than I actually prefer them personally.
Yeah. But you could tell they sounded great, man. You have a great voice. I mean,
Thank you.
It sounded great. It was I noticed it right away. I was like, oh, this is cool. But
Thank you.
you got some great female background vocals on there, and you've done that a few times. And I was curious, you need to be a good arranger to do stuff like that. Where did you learn how to do that, or like what prompted you to put that in there? Because it adds, it's very appropriate for that track. It adds a lot to it.
Thank you. I don't know where I learned it. I'm sure, when I think about it, I mean, there's all kind of 60s soul, that it's all over, which I really love. It just makes you feel good when you hear that.
Yeah,
and
really good.
And Queen, it's a different kind of thing, but it's those layered vocals where they get sounding phasey. ELO, when those vocals are so layered, they get to really sounding otherworldly, and as far as how I do it, it's just whatever I feel, and the having your own studio, you can just experiment all day long.
Yeah.
And cut out the parts that aren't as good as the others and go back and figure out what note here and there, and until it feels right,
Well, I really like how you do that. And sometimes, people get carried away because they're like, oh, let me put background vocals on every track. Let me put horns on. And it doesn't necessarily, just because you can do something, it doesn't always mean you need to do it. But you did it really appropriately on the records. I really enjoyed it, man.
Thank you. I had to stop myself because it's just fun to do,
I'm sure. Without it's having people with good voices singing behind you.
Yeah.
Chris, top 3 musical experiences you've had and what made them so much fun or so memorable for you?
Well, probably the top, I was talking about being on stage with Elton and Leon. It's not necessarily the musical part of it, which, we're playing music, but just the actual out of body type feeling. It's surreal of standing there where, when you're younger and you see people doing that, it's magical. It doesn't seem like a real life thing, but it is,
Sure.
I mean, the Bob Dylan tour, same thing. We did I think an hour, Leon Russell Band opening for Bob Dylan. We did 21 or 22 shows in a month, over 30 days. I mean,
that's busy.
So the musical part of it, the body electricity part of it, going out to Bob Dylan's audiences, which were 6,000 to 10,000 or more every night, is just kind of, until you get used to that, it's crazy. I kind of got used to it by the end, but every night Bob Dylan played too, and Bob Dylan's band's great. Bob Dylan is, he's Bob Dylan. There's something about him, and I really enjoy just watching him do his thing.
Yeah.
Just listening to him, and he had the McCrary sisters with him on that tour too. Speaking of really great soulful backing vocals, that was wonderful.
It's funny. Bob Britt is now Bob Dylan's guitar player.
That's right. I heard that. I saw Bob Britt. I don't know if I ever met him years ago. I probably did, but I saw him on the cruise. We were on a cruise and Etta was playing, and Bob was playing with Delbert McClinton.
Yeah.
And I talked to him a little bit. I'd actually like to talk to him some more, but it's kind of busy on those cruises. I'd like to get his perspective on Leon.
Yeah, he was with him for quite some time. I think him and his brother are both with Leon, actually. His brother Tom. Yeah. Okay, so Elton, Leon, and then Bob Dylan. What would be number 3?
Well, the most musically rewarding thing that's top of my mind is the Leon Russell tribute show. Right after he died, they put together a big Leon tribute in Tulsa. And they invited me to come out to that. And
cool.
there was 1 or 2 days of rehearsal, which I always like rehearsal better than the show because it's more laid back as far as those
Less
type
stress.
yeah. Those type of deals, a lot more of your natural stuff is played there. And you know, so you get to be around a bunch of people just really being their best, in my opinion, being relaxed. And so that was a lot of fun. And then the show was a lot of fun too. I mean, there was, I don't know how many people, 100, you know, it was Tulsa, a lot of people who love Leon. And I was in pain over that. Crazy, you know, it's crazy how I felt like Leon would never die. I know better, but it just didn't seem right, you know.
Because he was larger than life character, kind of.
Yeah, legend. You know, he lives on, but you know, he died. But I didn't think he would for some reason. It just, you know, it's not. I don't know. It's different. I don't know how to explain it. But so I was mourning, and when I was able to go to that and be around everybody else, it was really helpful. You know, the music was great, and being around people, it was helpful, and I got to, you know, see a bunch of great musicians, and that's probably one of my biggest ones. There's a lot of enjoyment I've gotten out of playing music in the studio with folks and in rehearsals, but that's a big one. That's a big one.
Chris, tell me, what were some of the low points or dark periods in your life, and how'd you get through them?
Well, the way I look at life, I try not to focus too much on the low points. So the only one that that comes to mind is I nearly died in a car wreck when I was 19.
Holy shit!
So I got busted up pretty good and had a few months recovery and learning how to walk again, which didn't really take that long. But I had a broken pelvis and was in a chair for a couple of months, and then I had to have some more surgery like 10 months later, you know, blah blah blah. But that whole period, it was just like, hey, I was 19, I was healthy, I was young, never going to die. Suddenly, I knew overnight, hey, I could die at any time, and this stuff hurts, and I can't just get up and walk, you know. But I got, you know, and everything wasn't, you know, they weren't sure about how all the surgeries are going to work, if it was going to repair me completely, if I was going to have lingering, you know, whatever, you know, to live a life that, you know, I had no idea. But you know, over that period, I was able to, first of all, admit that I was going to die, which is a very helpful thing. You know, I didn't know it at the time, right, immediately. But once you know that, things focus easier.
Helpful in a way that you were able to be more grateful for everything that you have.
That's right.
I can see that. Yeah, for sure.
And you know, I never became as healthy as I was the day before that car accident. I mean, I'm very healthy now, but I never got back to that. But I'm so grateful for what I have, more grateful for what I have now than I was the day before.
Yeah.
You know, perspective. And, and so that was, but it was hard to get through. I kind of zoned out. I just kind of just didn't think about the future, you know, as far as the negatives. I just thought, I'm going to get through this next day. I'm going to get through this next day, get done with this. And then at some point, I'm going to take off. You know, that was a dark time, but not very long. Like I said, I worked it out.
How long were you like out for?
I think I was
total recovery.
Well, first of all, it's like unconscious for like 3 days, and then
holy crap.
I mean, I think it was like an induced coma or something. But then I was in the hospital for
wow,
maybe 10 days, and then in a wheelchair for a couple months.
Dude, that's heavy. You're hospitalized for 10 days. You don't.
It was touch and go. They said.
Yeah.
I was never worried once I had consciousness.
Yeah.
They were all still worried that I wouldn't pull out of it, but I never had that concern once I was conscious.
Good. You can't, man. You can't afford to have that concern. You need to.
I told him it was going to be fine. That's what I felt. You know.
Yeah. Wow. Holy shit. Hey, let's switch gears. I want to talk about guitar for a few minutes. When you're laying down your solos, do you tend to use a straight improv right then and there, or do you work things out ahead of time or over some days?
Well, I usually improv in the studio, and if it's great, I'll leave it. But it's usually not great. What I'd classify as great first time or first few times through. I just kind of improv a while, and if the improv is good, then maybe I'll leave it. But often I will improv, take parts and cut them up, and then learn that, and then write a solo.
So you got to learn your own stuff in a sense.
That's right. That's right. That's what happened in Farewell for Now.
Okay.
That solo, I pretty much play that solo now when I play that song, or an evolved version of it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting, having to learn your own stuff again.
Yeah. Well, I say that a lot because while I'm doing it, I'm not really monitoring it.
Sure.
You know? So it's once I get to the end of it, then if I'm recording it, then I can go back and listen to what happened. But it's happening, you know, and it's more. No, you can't. You got to be present. Unconscious, you know.
Yeah, right? You got to be present when you're doing that.
Yeah.
Tell me the 2 or 3 best concerts you've ever seen.
Well, my first one, I wouldn't put it in the best, but at the time, it was, you know, the Joan Jett coming out there and the rock and roll and the lights, and then Aerosmith was great. But as far as, you know, I love Paul Rodgers. I got to see Paul Rodgers. I played on a side stage in Atlanta at an amphitheater and got to see Paul Rodgers, and that was just like being in the same space as a demigod to me.
Yeah, he's got an amazing voice.
It was crazy, and I'll always remember that. And
was he doing a solo gig there, or was he with Bad Company, or
it was a solo band gig?
Okay.
And I would love to see Bad Company, but I've never had a chance to see them. But well, I loved Queen with Paul Rodgers. That was great.
Yeah, you'd mentioned that.
Black Crowes was great. I love the Foo Fighters. And
yeah, I saw them in. Yeah.
You know, there's no, they're not holding back, you know. They're putting it out there, and you can see it. I know what's going on, right? You know, now, when I saw Aerosmith, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know backstage. I didn't know preparation or what was going on, but I know what's going on now, and they're putting it out there. It's real, you know. I love the Foo Fighters. I saw them 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, they're a good band.
And B.B. King. Being in the same space with B.B. King was surreal. Just watching him play, and Leon. When I was Leon, we played on a couple of festivals with him, and it was just amazing.
When you saw the Foos, I saw them, man, probably 20 years ago. I took my kids, my sons who at the time were, I guess, 11 and 13. And they did a cover of a Creedence song as the encore. And I don't know which song it was off the top of my head, but the whole show is phenomenal. But that cover of the Creedence song was just it's great. They do tear it up.
I don't remember a Creedence song that they did.
Yeah, I was just curious
but they probably did different ones because they did, you know, like I say, I don't think they half-ass it. They don't just do the same cover every night. You know, they say, hey, tonight let's try something we haven't ever tried before, which is very cool. I saw them a couple times when I lived in Austin. So that would have been, you know, before 2006. So
yeah. Tell me, guitar-wise, what's your go-to guitar right now, and what other two would round out your top three?
If I had to pick just one, it would be my Les Paul Gold Top.
Okay.
If I had to just play one, but I'm not going to do that. But, you know,
tell me about that guitar.
My favorite guitar overall. Oh, you want to hear about the Gold Top?
Yeah. What it like?
I think it's a 03 57 reissue.
Okay.
It's about 8.5 pounds, maybe. So pretty light. Got a huge neck. I was
gonna say you must have big hands because you love these big neck guitars.
Well, I don't know how big my hands are, but I like it cuts down on the fatigue. It seems to me when the neck is bigger.
Because you're not squeezing, you're not clenching.
Yeah,
down.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
More relaxed.
Yeah,
so I've really gravitated that over the last, 10 years or so. And it's got burst buckers, and I never use the tone knobs on my Les Pauls. I may use it every once in a while on the telly, but tone knobs are useless to me on a Les Paul, as far as I know. So far, I don't use them. I got a wah if I want to get that sound, but so I split the coils and use the knobs to roll out the coil in increments. Spin a split is what they call it. So I can get single coil tones out of that Les Paul. Now online again, I didn't have that capability. Those were just 2 conductor humbuckers on that Les Paul, that Blue Sparkle Les Paul. And I don't think I had actually learned how to do that yet.
Right.
But so I probably did have a Strat if it sounded like one. But now I can get Strat-like tones out of that Les Paul. And
out of the burst, out of burst buckers.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Just turn them into single coils.
Yeah.
And it's not Strat. It doesn't sound like a Strat, but it's Strat-like,
Yeah, sure. Did it come like that, or you modded? You had it modded, or
I modded it.
Yeah.
That's I've been learning how to work on my guitars ever since the first time I took it in to get it restrung.
Okay.
Because it was like $25.
Yeah, it saves you a boatload of money when you're a professional if you could do that.
I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. I have burst buckers on that classic. That's the black one there. I really like them, actually.
You got a black classic?
Yeah, Les Paul Classic. It's right next to the Strat.
I can't see it, but
yeah.
I'll take your word for it. Are you show it to...
I like that. No, I like the burst buckers on there. That's my only guitar with burst buckers.
I like burst buckers 1 and 2. I like them not too hot. But yeah, they have a good vintage, loose, open sound to me.
Yeah.
And my favorite guitar overall is 64 SG Junior, which was another gift. My best friend I played Little League ball with, still best friends with him today, gave it to me years ago. His granddad gave it to him.
Oh my God. So that's a like legit 64. So you got some couple of cool vintages between the Freddie and that. So an SG Junior, that's got like one P90?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's original P90. The wood is solid. It's got a bigger neck. It's not a weak neck like some of those 60s SGs have. You can do this on some of those 60s SGs and you can hear the strings going out of tune. But this one's solid. I play open G slide on it most of the time, and it's just perfect for that.
So how does I've never played a vintage P90. How does that sound different from like a modern P90 on a Les Paul Jr., let's say?
The way to describe it, I guess, would be it's just got a little more width, roundness, and openness. I really don't know. It's hard to describe. You use words, but let's just say this is I've got an 80s P90 in this red SG Junior over here, and it's like the tone is like this.
Okay.
The tone on the old one is more like this.
Okay. No, I understand. That makes sense to me.
Opens
what you're
up
saying.
and loosens on the edges somehow.
Yeah.
There's air in there somewhere. I don't know
cool.
if that makes any sense.
Okay, so top 3 is your gold top, your SG, and what would be number 3?
It's hard to say this, but the Freddie King guitar is in the third place position. And
no, I get it.
It's because, and I got spin and splits on that too. I've modded that one, but I can put it all back to original. I haven't done anything that I can't undo, but the nut being a little more narrow makes it less than ideal for me
to play. Yeah.
I get it. I had to get warmed up to that, and it's just not my preference these days. I actually used to like a more narrow nut years ago, but my preference has changed.
Sure. Totally get that, man. Do you have a worst gig ever story for me?
I've had a bunch of hell gigs, like I wish at the time I was like, oh, I wish I wasn't here. I wish I could have undo this, I wish I'd have said no, but as far as the worst gig ever for me, in my opinion, is I got a couple, I was at a restaurant, playing covers, acoustic duo type thing. And there was a customer there who really loved the band, so he decided it would be a good idea to bring us Red Bull and vodka, because just to show us how much he loved us. And I accepted his love every time he offered it. And I did not finish that gig.
Oh, you're serious?
Halfway through it, I fell off of my stool, and I don't remember what happened after that. I just know they said,
God,
I wasn't available for the rest of the gig. And
that's
that happened
hilarious.
Again at another gig. I did finish the gig. It was just Jaeger. Same thing. They loved the band. They kept bringing Jaeger, and I accepted every one. I finished the gig, but they had to tell me I did, because I forgot about halfway through.
Chris, time to stop.
This was years ago.
Oh my God.
Those days are over.
Yeah, man. I feel you on that. Give me your top 3 Desert Island discs in no particular order and just for this moment, because obviously that changes all the time.
All right. Back in Black, Highway to Hell, Appetite for Destruction.
All right.
Nope, there's no blues in there except for they're all influenced,
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
Really. And when I first got into guitar, really hard, and got my focus on what I really loved, AC/DC was it. For a couple of years, it was all AC/DC all the time. And then I got curious about, well, where did he get his ideas? Where did Angus learn how to play? Chuck Berry.
Yeah. Chuck Berry, yeah.
Then Eric Clapton, B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King, Muddy Waters. And then I eventually worked all the way back to Robert Johnson.
Right.
And, but that all was because of Angus Young. That's what got me there.
A lot of people, I think, started that way with AC/DC. All right. Tell me 1 or 2 moments of your life you'll never forget.
Well, the one that everybody says, the birth of my son, of course, I won't forget that I actually wasn't there when he was born, because I was on the road with Leon, and you don't take off for the birth of children with Leon. He's old school. So
Yeah.
I wanted to keep my job because I had a new baby.
Yeah.
So
Man.
I did the gig. And my son decided to come 2 days early. And so I met him on the second day of his life. But I will never forget that. That was pretty amazing. And I thought I would never forget. I guess I didn't write down the notes for that.
You forgot to write down the notes. That's funny, man.
Yeah. Well,
About the stuff you'll never
I didn't
forget.
write down notes for everything because I thought I'll never forget that. But the first show
always works like that.
Yeah. First, everybody says first day I met my child, which is amazing. I remember my wedding day. First gig with Leon, I will always remember it, but I also don't really remember it because I was so damn nervous.
I gotta believe that. Yeah.
I'll always remember it. I have flashes of being there, and the way I felt, and parts of the show, it's burned in there, but it's choppy because it was so, unbelievable.
Yeah,
I played Leon Russell songs at my first paying gig with this guy who introduced me to the name Leon Russell. I was 20, and it was I had just got past my surgeries, got back out into the world, got a gig, got a day job, and then got a gig playing at the Holiday Inn with this guy who was, I think he was 37 and I was 20. So he knew a lot of older music than me, but he needed somebody that could pick the lead and sing backing vocals on acoustic. And I said, I can do that. And he gave me this cassette tape of all these songs. Leon Russell was one of them. I was like, I like this. Who is this? I didn't know who that was. And then that night, leading up to that show, I was thinking about that. How crazy is this?
Yeah. Totally. And here you are playing with a guy for 5 years.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Tough question. What do you like most about yourself?
This is a hard question to answer without, sounding too high on yourself. But I will say that I try to be open-minded and listen to new information and implement change when it's prudent.
That's awesome. That sounds great. Doesn't sound high on the horse at all.
And, it sounds obvious. That's what everybody wants to do. And probably everybody says that they do. I think I do it. I try to.
Sure.
I'm sure I'm not perfect, but I don't want to, I don't like it. I don't like the idea of knowing something today and then that's all I'll ever know.
Yeah. That's scary, man. I know, isn't it?
That's scary. And also admitting that you've been wrong about something for a while is scary too.
Yeah.
Like I knew this and now I've got this new information. It's hard to say, gosh, I've been living with the wrong idea.
Fake news.
Yeah, that's right. Is it easier just to convince yourself that you're right all the time? Don't even worry about it. Or is it easier to get with the program today?
Yeah.
And continue on from there. And what I think what I try to do with that, it involves a lot of thinking about affecting others and the world, in total, in a more positive, net positive. Because I'm going to have negativity. Everyone does. Everybody's positive and negative. So I'm just trying to get to net positive.
Yeah, man. I'm with you on that. I like that very much. Something about yourself people might be surprised to hear or they may find a little odd.
I guess that they might be surprised. I really don't know how people see me, or whatever, but they might be surprised that I have a lot of varied interests. I like to go fishing. I got a lot of redneck in me.
Where do you get, dude? You go bass fishing up there?
Yeah.
Bass, so relaxing, man. I love bass fishing.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I like fishing in general.
I'm not a fishing fanatic, but I really enjoy fishing.
Yeah, it's so relaxing.
I'll fish for a little
man.
while and catch something. Yes, catch something. No, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that much. I like to draw and paint. I don't do it very much, but I enjoy it when I do. I don't know if it's odd, but I build guitars sometimes, and
oh wow,
I enjoy it. It's just
that's a labor of love, man, because that is not easy.
No, I mean, I don't actually cut the wood and shape the wood. I buy kits, like
still.
I'll either bolt it together, or I've got a couple that I've glued together. That white Les Paul, I guess you can't see it on your screen.
No.
And the red SG Junior. Those are precision guitar kits that I put together.
That's cool.
You never get your money out. You might get your parts costs out of it if I sold it, but never get the labor costs out of it.
Yeah.
But the labor part is the learning and the enjoyment for me. I like to do things for myself that I could probably get done quicker and labor-wise cheaper, but I like the process of learning it. That's something that my wife thinks is odd.
No, I think it's cool. Man, we got one quick trip around this circle.
Yeah.
Do as much as you can. That's my thoughts anyway. Like sitting on the couch is not a super rewarding form of spending your life, to me anyway.
Yeah.
And
I do my share of sitting and watching TV, but I know it's part of the process of getting my brain ready and my body ready to do something else.
Sure.
I'm a shade tree everything, really.
That's so cool. That's such a Southern expression, right?
You always hear shade tree mechanic.
Shade tree mechanic, yeah.
My stepfather was a shade tree mechanic. Pretty
was
good,
he?
And he taught me that. He's the one that taught me if something needs fixing, you could probably do it. It's scary, but if you'll try, you'll almost always, you'll be surprised at how much you can figure out and get done. I've applied that to just about everything. Carpentry, electricity.
You said it earlier. You said you could do more than you think.
Yeah,
man. I agree with that.
That's where that comes from.
What's the most important thing you learned from your mom and your dad?
Well, for my stepdad, I had a dad and a stepdad, and I had for a short time I had a stepmom, but from the stepdad, if I'm willing to let go of the fear of trying, I can probably figure out whatever I want to figure out. My dad taught me to go to work. No sick days. Be on time and work hard when you get there. That's one big thing I learned from my dad. And to
work ethic.
Yeah, and to take up for myself, defend myself. And my stepdad taught me that too. Take up for myself and defend myself. And not just violence, or whatever, but if you're, just take up for yourself. Defend your views, defend yourself. Be thoughtful about it, but and my mother was the only one who never let me think that I couldn't succeed at whatever I wanted to do. When I was 15, I said, announcement, I'm going to play guitar for the rest of my life, and I'm going to make a living at it. And my dad was like, and my stepdad was like, and my mom was like, go for
That's awesome, man.
it.
You sound like you had some good parenting messages overall.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
My parents divorced when I was 2, and it wasn't. It probably, probably wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it wasn't the best thing either. So, that was kind of a dark memory, I guess, as far as that goes. But I feel like I came out of it all right. Everybody straightened up after a few years, and
good,
and got a great stepdad out of the equation, and still, my stepfather passed away a few years ago.
Oh, sorry, man.
Still have my dad and mom, and good relationship with them, and so yeah, I got another one. Mark it down as lucky, Yeah,
man, definitely. Just a couple more questions. Favorite place you've traveled? Sorry, man. This little kitten is. I'm gonna just pick her up because she's wanting to be held.
Mostly, my first instinct is my favorite place to travel most of the time is home. Right. But what you mean is, besides home.
Favorite place you've been outside of home? Yeah.
Paris.
Oh, wow.
Comes to mind. London is cool. Paris probably top.
What'd you like most about it?
The art of everything,
Pretty wild, like Europe in general. Their architecture is like so freaking, it's like hundreds and thousands sometimes of years old.
You're staring at everything you're looking at is older than the United States.
Yes.
That's amazing, I traveled around Europe and saw, castles and old structures, churches, that kind of stuff. But Paris was like more squeezed into one spot, I guess.
Yeah.
But I can't even remember the names of the towns. Somewhere in Belgium, there's a castle that's over 1,000 years old. I didn't go through it, but I saw it from the outside. There's not a lot of time to do touristy stuff.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this is a helpful hint for everyone. Speaking of Paris, I had one good off day in Paris, and I said, I'm going to the Louvre. And it was a Tuesday, and I didn't know this, and many people listening to this may not know this, but if you're planning a trip to the Louvre, it may be different now, but at the time, they're closed every Tuesday.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What a disappointment.
Yeah, I was disappointed. So I saw the outside of the Louvre. I was like, I walked from the hotel, it was a mile or two, just out looking at everything, enjoying the day. And as I got closer, I knew I was there. But I didn't see a lot of people. I was like, wow,
this is awesome. I scoot right in.
So,
oh man,
figured out it was closed. But like a half a mile away, there's another smaller museum.
Okay.
So I walked over there, and there was a line for that one. So it was like 30-minute line to get in, and lots of people in there. But there was a lot of good paintings and stuff in there. I enjoyed that. Eiffel Tower, went to a jazz bar there.
That must have been cool.
It was great. It's very, very French, what just you imagine it's great, just to be immersed in it, playing jazz and bluesy jazz in France,
That's nice, man. I was going to say, my wife is from a little village in England, and the church where she went when she was a kid is like from 700 AD.
Wow.
It's pretty wild. When we went there and we saw that, I was like, holy, it's just hard to take into that.
It's perspective for this nation, about how young we are.
Well, hopefully we get smarter. I don't see that happening. Doesn't seem to be moving in that direction.
Well, like I said, I'm trying to improve myself. I'm trying to get my boy prepared. everything else, you know, what can you control?
Yeah.
You know,
Very
just try to be a
almost
net
nothing.
positive. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
man. I like that. Net positive, man. What's the thing in your life that's making you happiest or giving you the most joy or satisfaction right now?
Well, it's my family. You know, having my family together and healthy. You know, uh, and you know, if you want to branch out from the stock answer, I'm working. You know,
Yeah. Right. Yeah, man,
there was
for
you know
sure.
a couple of years ago, wasn't too long ago. I wasn't working. I was having to um, come up with you know new ways. You know, doing the stream thing, but yeah,
Sure.
my family is the hub of everything, and working revolves around that. And uh, I'm I'm enjoying my job too. I'm not just working. I
Yeah.
got a good job and I'm enjoying it. That
That
brings
means a
me
lot.
satisfaction.
For sure, man. And last question, Chris, what's the biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years? And has that change been intentional or just a natural product or byproduct of aging?
Um, hold.
This is a tough question.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, okay, I think here's another one of those things that might make me sound too high on myself, but you know what I'm talking about trying to become better. And at some point, this whole I don't control anyone else thing kind of sunk in, and I can only maybe control myself. So I've tried to figure out a way to everything that happens to me or that I don't like that affects me negatively. I try to figure out a way to take all the blame that I can. You know, all of it. And I don't worry about if I don't have all the blame, I don't worry about the rest of it. I just focus on what am I to blame for, and see if I can do anything about that. That
Yeah,
seems
that's
to
it.
help.
Right. Yeah.
You
Because
know,
then you could fix that.
yeah.
That
Because if
yeah.
you're in control of something, that is it. It
Yeah.
ain't outside of that. I didn't know that. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't know that. I don't think. I really didn't know that. I thought I'm going to go around and affect others the way I want them. You know, make them do what I want them to do. Not make them, but ask them. Try to
Yeah.
convince them. But you can't do that.
No. I have this saying, I'm not in the convincing business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, man, thank you so much for everything. I really appreciate it. Any final words of wisdom?
Oh, well, uh, try to give grace to people when you can, because you're going to need it. And when you need it, you'll hope that they give it to you too. You know, I probably need it. I need more grace coming in than I give out. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to make a bunch of mistakes and whatever. But,
No, that's good, Chris. That's a great way to end this. Let me tell people where to find you. Please check out Chris Simmons. First of all, I'd love you to listen to Chris's music. Everything's available on Apple. Actually, your Christmas album is not on there, but Old News, Hallelujah Man, and Set Me On Free are all on there. I'd love everybody to check out Chris Simmons, Simmons, and also Chris is on Instagram. You could follow him on there, and he'll be coming out with some new music in the not too distant future, and post it up on there when it's ready. Man, anything else that you got to sell?
well, I don't have anything else to sell, but I do have some more words of wisdom.
Awesome.
This is a guitar podcast, so learn to work on your own guitar. That's something that I'm so glad that I did, you know.
Yeah, because you've done a lot of mods to yours. It sounds like it's helped you out a lot.
Yeah, but I guess that's it.
Well, Chris, thanks for everything. Please check out Chris also on the road with Paul Thorne. If you never saw Paul, he's a great singer, puts on a good show.
That's right.
And man, thank you for everything. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. You're welcome. My pleasure. I'm so glad we got to meet, man. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, share it on your socials. We appreciate your support. Thanks very much for Chris Simmons hanging out with us and being a real open, good guy. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Until next time, peace and love, everybody. I am out. Chris, thanks for everything, brother.
Thanks, Craig.